Welcome to Diversity Conversations, where we engage in thought-provoking dialogue to identify leadership solutions to today's most challenging conflicts. Stream live each week, Saturday 9:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. Hosted by Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategist and CEOs Eric Ellis and Tommy Lewis. Join us and add your voice to this engaging diversity conversation.
Good morning, Greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, the United States, and the world. My name is Eric Ellis, and I'm the President and CEO of Integrity Development Corporation. And I'm joined this morning by my good friend and brother,
Tommy Lewis, President and CEO of Make It Plain Consulting. Good morning, Eric.
What's up, Tommy? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Eric. I'm doing good. It's a little rainy outside.
Right.
But that's, maybe cold outside, but warm in our hearts. It's a blessing to be with you, Eric, as always, and with our community. So I'm having a great start of this Saturday morning.
Absolutely. And Tommy and I had a chance to play a little bit of golf last week. Tommy was hitting the ball extremely well. We are ready to dominate the season.
Yes.
Just one little piece of information.
Eric, Mike Tyson said everybody has a plan until they get punched. Right. So we have great aspirations for this golf season until golf says I'm still me. Right.
For 8 holes, we had beat up the golf course.
Yes, sir.
And then on the 9th hole, we said this little bitty simple hole it's always got some type of challenge to it. And we called it into reality.
We did.
We just said later. Okay,
yeah.
We're out of here.
Picked up.
Right. Tommy, how was your week, man?
Had a good week, Eric. Got to give a shout out to my team. We're working on a number of different things, but 2, I guess, very significant projects. Here in Southwest Ohio, Northern Kentucky, there's a bridge project that's happening. It's going to take a number of years, close to a decade to complete. Mm-hmm. And it's going to really free up a lot of local traffic between the 2 states, maybe even 3 states, including Indiana. And then it's going to free up the up to $1 billion of cargo that transfer between the northern part of this country to the southern part of this country every day. $1 billion a day. Wow. And so this project is going to really free that up, get that corridor. It's actually called the Brent Spence Bridge Corridor Project. And I have a team of folks really working on the ground there, doing phenomenal work, really engaging small, medium, and large companies, looking at the workforce, because, Eric, we need people to do the jobs. Right? At any given time, we may have upwards of 800 people working on the bridge, 800 people. So we have been reaching out strategically, reaching out through pop-up events at restaurants, at coffee shops, just to get the word out. And kudos to my team, Penny Monday, Valeria Swope, who's doing a great job working with us. And then we're also working with an organization called America River Roots. America River Roots is going to be a multi-day festival in the same region, Southwest Ohio, Northern Kentucky. And we're on the river. For those who are less familiar, Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky is on the Ohio River. And there's a long history of civilization on rivers, as well as here at the Ohio River. So the America River Roots is to really highlight over the last 200 years of cuisine history, cultural history, arts, music, and the like, and really bring people, vendors, suppliers from around the country to this region for about 3 or 4 days. And we are, Make It Plain Consulting has been engaged with really reaching out to those chefs, to those restaurant organizations, folks who do basket weaving, who sing, who dance, who play a musical instrument, particularly from this area, right? And so we're going to have that in the next couple of months. It's been a grind to procure this, but we're happy. Vanessa Smedley.
Yeah,
She's working with us,
excellent,
doing an awesome job.
Yes,
right?
Detail oriented.
Detail oriented.
Right.
So I'm real happy that we worked together, you and I and
Right,
Vanessa with
right.
the Urban League, and now having her on board. She's really leading the project, to be honest.
Okay.
So those are the
Right.
two of many things
Right.
that's been happening.
Right. That's excellent,
Yeah.
Tommy. Well, as you can see, we were anticipating that my oldest, Jillian, was going to join us today to talk about the topic being resilient. She fell under the weather, so she's not able to be resilient through sickness. And so we've got Calvin Williams will be our guest this morning, and we're excited about that conversation. Tommy, it's been an interesting week. I was really highly anticipating the NFL draft. And specifically, I was, like many others, anticipating what would happen with Shedora Sanders. And Tommy, I'll tell you, there's been certainly a lot of controversy now around here we are, done with the third round, and he has not been drafted. Yeah. And so I know there are questions about whether this is an issue around talent, whether it's an issue around, personality. And so what are your thoughts about that, Tom?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things, Eric. I think politically, the NFL and NFL franchises, the football teams, they want to land on something more. They don't like surprises. Right. Let me say that.
Right.
And so not that Shedora Sanders is a surprise, but the media circus that may be generated by his brand, ability, and confidence may be surprising to NFL owners. Now, with that being said, and I have another part to this, when you play in the NFL or any sport at that level, everyone is arrogant.
Yeah.
Everyone
right. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, you can't only draft somebody unless they are. If they don't believe in themselves as being the best.
The absolute best.
Right.
And you never say, well, I'm good, but Eric Ellis, who's trying to compete for my job, is better than me. If you would, give him a fair shake to take my job. We never say that.
No.
I'm the best.
Right.
Draft me. I will be the best for your organization. It's the best because they're trying to hire the best.
Right.
So with that being said, sometimes there are folks in the front offices of organizations who they may talk like, hey, we really want the best and we really want that confident person. But behind the scenes, there's some decisions that are made to say, do we want that type of person, i.e. personality? And then the second piece, Eric, is unfortunately with Brother Sanders, we're talking about personality and not talking about play.
Right.
He has a skill set.
That's right.
He has the ability.
That's right.
Right. So Allen Iverson many moons ago said, we're talking about practice. So we're talking about practice. We're not talking about the game.
Right.
We're talking about that I missed a practice.
Right.
Where I show up every day in games.
Right.
And I'm the number one player in the world. I'm the MVP, and we're talking about practice. With Shedora Sanders, we're talking about personality.
Right. Has nothing to do with ability, playability. And a lot of people have said that he may actually be even a better test case than the average quarterback because so many of the great quarterbacks from college had great teams, had great lines defending, blocking for them. He didn't have none of that.
No.
He was more like what an average great quarterback going to a bad team would be experiencing.
Yeah.
Being on the run the whole way.
Yeah.
And so I'll tell you that we don't like to bring race into things, but sometimes it feels like it may fit. If you look at Aaron Rodgers and all of the idiosyncrasies around him and everybody, he's got to wait to see if the moon is a certain place in the sky before he can decide if he wants to come. Does he want to play with you or not? Does he want to play with these players or not? So, we know that professional athletes, in many ways, the greatest are prima donnas.
Yeah.
And yet we tolerate that from so many of them. I'll tell you what you were saying about the competitive nature. I was just looking at the game last night between the Lakers and the Timberwolves. And I tell you, LeBron and Luca being on the same team is amazing. Luca was sick, but I tell you, them young boys look like they don't care about that, Tommy.
Yeah.
I mean, LeBron was, the way I saw LeBron playing was like, I'm LeBron. I ain't got to say nothing. I'm about to put up this 40 piece on you and show you who I am. And they looked like they were entertained by that for a minute.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they said, well, hold up. Have you seen this?
Yeah, we're on the court together.
I mean, it was ugly, man, the things that Anthony was doing.
Yeah.
Tapping balls from people, dunking on folks that's out of nowhere, going through the lane. It was sick. Hitting threes from everywhere. I mean, it was like, and the young boy that played with my son, the big boy that they just got. I mean, it's unbelievable how they are improving in front of our eyes. And what you see is that no matter how great you are, LeBron, the next generation is still coming.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But that's what you were saying. That's what sports is about. That's what most sport teams want. Is somebody that's going to draw a lot of attention because they're trying to fill up seats.
Yeah, I think at this point, if we need to hire on merit, then Sanders, hire on merit.
Right.
Look at the pedigree.
Right.
Look at the resume.
Right. Even the president weighed in on it. The president weighed in on it and said, NFL, what are you doing? Yeah. President Trump said, what are y'all doing? Get it together. So, so much for that. Well, we've got a great guest that's going to join us this morning. A friend of mine. I've known him for many, many years. He's a best friend of my brother, Wendell. Mr. Calvin Williams, president of Lucian Families, is going to join us this morning.
Yes, sir. Yes. Good morning, Calvin.
Good morning, Tommy. Good morning, Eric. Thank you for having me here.
How are you doing this morning, sir?
I'm very well. Very well.
Thank you for pinch hitting, man, because we knew we wanted to have you on the show. We just didn't know it would be this quick.
Yeah, and the stars aligned because I wanted to be on the show.
Absolutely.
You know, I haven't graced this stage in a while, and I was talking with Wendell a couple of days ago, and it popped in my head. Yeah, let's do this.
Right.
Let's do it. Let's do it. And I want to remind our community, Calvin, before we get started, to as we're joining this conversation, be sure to like and subscribe, right, so that you can continue to follow us. You can continue to listen and follow Brother Calvin Williams and all the wonderful things that he's going to talk about today and that he's been doing for many, many years. But it's important for us to like and subscribe so that we're up and abreast of what's happening. So just wanted to connect with our community there.
Calvin, why don't you start by just, some people may have remembered the last time you were with us, but introduce yourself, just talk about who you are and what are the experiences and people that have sort of helped you to become who you are today.
Sure. Thank you. Yes. Good morning to all your viewers and listeners. My name is Calvin Williams, and essentially I am a fatherhood practitioner. I like saying that because 35 years ago, it was a group of men like myself that started this fatherhood field, if you will. And that's what we dubbed ourselves, and it fit, and it still fits to this day. So what that means is that I have been involved in the research, direct service, and policy aspects of fatherhood for the past 30 years. So in terms of direct service, I developed and led fatherhood programs serving dads and families in Cincinnati and in Oklahoma City. From a policy standpoint, I've helped establish the Ohio Practitioners Network for Fathers and Families. I'm also a part of the reemergence of the Ohio Commission on Fatherhood, and locally just working with local leaders to think about policies and practices as it relates to family service and how to better include fathers into those. So that's the policy work. The research part, I've been fortunate to be involved in several research projects, both nationally and locally, around fathers and fatherhood. So that's what a fatherhood practitioner is, you know. And I will tell you, I can't say who I am without thinking of my father and my son. So I am the son of Clarence Lucian Williams, hence the name Lucian Families in my company, who did tremendous things in extremely small ways, right? That really, really impacted my life, which in turn set me up to do more tremendous things in larger ways for my son. And so that being a son and being a father really encapsulates everything that I'm about. And I can't tell you how blessed I am to live this out as a career. That's crazy to me. So that's a little bit about who I am. Lucian Families started in 2015. I basically took my 25 years of nonprofit work around fathers and families and just flipped it into a for-profit model, primarily because as much freedom, success, and as much enjoyment as I've had in my career, I wanted to start my company because I needed to do things precisely how my heart and mind said to do them, right? I had total freedom to be innovative, to stay in principles of design and just and possibilities, and with no limits, no boundaries. And that's what starting the company allowed me to do.
I love that. Before we go any further, I think that this is a special moment that we have three Black men here who love being fathers. And so I'm going to ask Tommy to take a minute. Anytime we get a chance to just talk about what it means to be a father, I think that we ought to take advantage of that. Tommy, if you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit about your father and what he meant to you, and then what it means to you to be a father.
My father, Tommy Lewis Sr., I'm his namesake. Tommy Lee Lewis Jr. is my name. My father was, I would consider, a man's man. In other words, when my father was around other men, those men saw him as a man, as a model.
Right.
My father is, out of Cincinnati, Ohio. He lost his father at a young age of 7 years old. He lost his mother at a young age when my father was 13 years old. And he and a couple of his siblings, my aunts, were forced into foster care. My father did not ever accept foster care. And so within the first 3 months of being in foster care, he broke them out. And my father was 13 years old. He broke them out. And the state caught up with him and said, "We got to put you in foster care again." My father broke him and his two sisters out again. He said, we're not going to do that. And so they said, "Well, we need to give you a guardian. My father said, "Now I'm 14, I can take care of the family." At the age of 14. Long story short, I had a relationship with my mother. Actually met my mother when in grammar school. They went to two different middle schools and high schools. And as their relationship was developing, my father was impoverished. My mother had a little bit of a leg up, not too much. And so when they were planning to get married, my father had promised my mother that if she were to support him to go to Central State University, which he went to Central State University as an athlete. He was a gymnast. He got a gymnast scholarship and a chemistry scholarship. And so if you support me, Carol, I'll take care of you for the rest of your life. And my father went to Central State. He broke some national records in gymnasts on the Palmer Hall and the rings, and then graduated and joined a company called Dracket, and later received 21 U.S. patents for the recreation of Windex and Indust. And therefore, he supported my mother, my eldest sister, may she rest in peace, Diane, my other older sister, Anita, and myself in our endeavors. All of that being said, my father was present in the house, but he traveled a lot, so he wasn't present. His presence resonates with me every day. The lessons that he taught me, how to manage my emotional intelligence, how to protect myself in the streets. He said, he always told me, we can keep it academic or we can go ghetto. That was my father, TL. Right. And he was quick with it now. My father was a man's man. And in closing, he was the go-to for the entire family. So when my cousins were doing what they do and had to call Uncle Tommy at 1 o'clock in the morning because they got one call. You with me? They called Uncle Tommy. He came down. And so for me, if you give me a call at 12 noon, 10 at night, 3 in the morning, I have the obligation, if you decide to call me, I'll be there. I want to be on the short list as that man, as that father. This is what I instill into how I support my son, Bryce, right? Who's at North Carolina A&T studying biology pre-med. I exposed him to a number of things in his upbringing. And I hope that when I am not physically present or around, that my words, my energy, what's passed on to me resonates with him. That's what I think fatherhood is the intergenerational transmission of culture. Fatherhood.
Okay. You can see, Calvin, that between the three of us, we can never get around to what you do because this means so much to us.
Right.
Yeah.
It's almost like we need multiple shows because you are looking at community, three men who love being fathers, and the whole notion of fatherhood, that's a main thing in our lives. As
Eric,
I look at
Eric,
my own
can
life,
I say, before you start, can I say real quick, we are a representative sample.
Right.
We are not outliers. We're not extraordinary.
Come on, Calvin. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're not outliers.
Right. Maybe the biggest lie ever told to man is that we don't love being fathers. And so as I think about my grandfathers on my mother's side, her father was a painter, an entrepreneur, and an alcoholic. On my father's side, his father was a farmer with a third grade education, 12 children, 300 acres that he was, farming. My dad's father never had any goal but for his kids to be farmers. It was sports that eventually took my father to college. My father was my hero for most of my life. And, I love everything about him. He and I were a lot alike. My father had me work in his company. There were 5 of us, but I was the child that worked in his company as an intern. And then my father died at a very early age for us. I was 21 years old when my father died. And then I learned some things about him after he died. I learned some things about my father after he died. And so when I look at the men in my life, I have to both celebrate the greatness of who they are and some of the wonderful things that they contributed to who I am today. But I also have to own some of their weaknesses and shortcomings and flaws. And so being human is an imperfect thing. And so sometimes you're challenged with the imperfections of who they are and then the power of what they've meant to your life. As a father, I wanted to be a father when I was a kid. That's what I wanted to be. I couldn't wait to have children of my own because I love children. And I've got 4 children. And I'll tell you that there is no role in my life that's more meaningful to me than being a husband and being a father. And I was just telling Tommy Calvin that just 2 days ago, I was in the kitchen talking with my 3 boys. And they were basically giving me my flowers while I'm here on earth. And they were just telling me how grateful they were for me and my wife. And they went into a lot of detail around what that meant to them. Mm-hmm. And it was it just means more than anything. When I think about all of the trials and challenges that we see in the world today, all of that is minimized by the fact that I've got children who love me and appreciate that I would lay down my life for them. And so with that, Calvin, we'll kind of turn it back to you, man, and to just share with us kind of what you do and what are the powerful things that are on the horizon for you right now.
Thank you so much. And I honor both of you all's stories of your fathers. Tommy, that you talk about diversity. You don't think about Black men in that light. You know, I mean, wow, a chemist, a gymnast. If you say my father got a scholarship to Central State, nobody's going to think chemist and gymnast.
No,
Yes, sir.
no.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
But anyway, thank you, guys. And Lucian Families is busy. I mean, we just launched our new website, so I'm excited for people to go there and at lucianfamilies.com and see what we've got going on. I have been burning. There's been an issue burning in me for a long time in my fatherhood work. And that is how people talk about and characterize fathers. I'm very sensitive about that. And I don't apologize for it. In any space I'm in, I'm like, what?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, but it's been burning in me, this issue about father absence. I've never liked the term. I didn't know what to replace it with. I never gave it much thought. I just know I didn't like it because, I'll tell you the main reason I didn't like it was intuitively because in my 12, 13 years of doing direct service fatherhood work with tens of thousands of dads, I didn't see father absence. So maybe these guys were streaming into the program trying to figure out how they can be the father they want to be. But yet the media is telling me fathers just absent in droves. So I was confused. So it finally crystallized for me a few weeks ago into a compulsion to do something. And I wrote an article called "There Is No Father Absence Issue." That article will be coming out in the Cincinnati Enquirer here in the next couple of weeks. But it was like a catharsis for me to get out of me that fathers get disconnected from their children.
Yes, sir.
That's what happens. The setup for the father absence trope is the early 2000s when the fatherhood field was just beginning to be formed. And it was being formed at that time largely by the white Christian conservative movement, right? You had African Americans and Hispanics involved, but that was the driver. And it was through that lens that they saw fathers in cities, and they saw Black and brown fathers in cities. Now, the way I termed it, to be polite, is they misdiagnosed what the problem was in poor families and communities. It wasn't that fathers were walking away from children, right? It's that fathers were being disconnected from children in a multitude of ways, to include internal issues the father himself may have, right? So there's internal things that may go on and disconnect a father from his child. But my point is the sheer scale of the father disconnection issue opposes the idea that individual men can just do better and we can solve it. The sheer scale of the issue points to systemic challenges. So low-income fathers are more likely to be involved in a system, and usually that father and his family are involved in multiple systems, right? So it is the system's engagement with the family that is driving fathers away. Not because systems evil, people are evil in the systems, because the systems were designed with women and children as being a family.
Yes,
So
sir.
the systems, whether it's healthcare, education, social services, I don't care, give me a system. It was not designed with men in mind.
Well, Calvin, so let's pause for just a minute here. And I'm gonna push back for a half a second, but we're gonna lean on in the direction of what you're saying, because I think that what you're saying is most correct. But I know that for me right now, my children are telling me about all of their friends and the fact that most of their friends didn't have fathers that were really in their lives. And they look upon my daughter Jillian and just think, man, I wish I had something like you. As an AAU coach, when I was, raising my kids, many of the boys that I coached didn't have their fathers in their lives as well. And there was a loneliness and a hurt that surrounded that experience. So I would say to you that the narrative that media has put forth also coincides with the reality of what people are experiencing. You're saying that there's a deeper structure that's leading to this, I think. But my question to you is, how do we deal with the pain and this feeling of abandonment that many young children of color feel?
Yeah, and I definitely acknowledge that the term father absence speaks directly to that, that pain, that abandonment. But from a strategic standpoint of improving lives of children and families, you can't operate from a father absence, pain, and abandonment standpoint.
Right.
Because the question then becomes, well, what do you do then?
Yeah.
When you term it father disconnection, the brain automatically goes to, well, there had to be a connection. And if there's a disconnection, maybe we can reconnect.
Yes.
Right. So you termed it exactly right. That wasn't even a pushback, man. That was a stroll along with me. So you termed it exactly right, Eric. It is the disconnection that is not entirely, but largely driven by system engagement with low-income families that leads to the experience that the people are describing.
Yeah, I would say, Calvin, that as you were speaking, your words and understanding of the system resonates directly with me. I have a son, and I'm in a blended family, so we ultimately have 4 sons between my wife and I. She has 3 biological children, sons, and I have 1 biological. So all 4 are considered our sons. With my biological son, I found myself in the system. I'm coming from the background that I experienced with both of my parents and being married for 45 plus years. And I found myself in a system that was systematically trying to remove me and disconnect me from my son. I sit here saying, what you're saying is absolutely true. From child support, right, and how that works, I was literally prohibited from seeing my son. The going back and forth to court every year, and oftentimes multiple times, just to say, wait a minute, I'm here.
Right.
Is what, Mr. Lewis, you've been absent. No, he talked to him. He has a place in my house. He has food. He has clothing. As I mentioned, shelter. I am the one that transports him to his academic endeavors and athletic endeavors. I have the receipts. I would bring volumes of information, submit, and they were like, according to the law, you're absent. What the hell is going on? And I had, Calvin, I had some resources. God willing, I had some resources. If I did not have resources, because I was there in the same space, I know exactly what you're talking about. The system will disenfranchise the man from the defined family, which is only mother and children.
Correct.
And so my question is, when I think of fatherhood, it's not only fathers to males, it's father to all of their children. You can call it father, you can call it dad, you can call it pops. It is that connection. And some of it is through a biological connection. Some of it is through a step or godson, goddaughter. We know the dynamics. My question is, from your research and your work, how might we either individually or collectively begin to address the systemic barriers that are constantly in the way of men wanting to be fathers to their families?
Yes, that is indeed the work. I'm sure you guys are familiar with the whole field of improvement science, QI, but the science that supports all of that. And that science helps us understand that when we look at systems, we need to look at the individual parts of the system and how they relate to each other and the dynamics and interplay and challenges and strengths and weaknesses there, not just child support.
Yeah.
Okay. Because the individual parts are the places where you need to do the work. And that's where in our work with Hamilton County, that's what we're doing. Right. I'll give you an example. In Hamilton County Job and Family Services, they have a customer complaint form. So at one point I said, I wonder what the complaints from fathers are. Maybe let's pull those and let's see what we can learn. So I go to pull that data and I find out that the complaint form does not break parents down by gender. Now, Hamilton County Job and Family Services is a 75-year-old institution. So it's been that way for 75 years. So I say, well, here's an idea. Let's somehow add gender to the complaint form so I can disaggregate fathers' complaints and see what we can learn. So that's done now. It took about 4 months to do that. Okay. So that system change. You're in the system and you take an element of that system and you make a change towards the ultimate goal that you're trying to achieve. So that's one way to think about it for us, like researchers, policy wonks, and technocrats.
Right.
For people in the community, when you're talking about change, the number one thing is educating fathers about their paternal rights and educating fathers about how the system functions. And there's some good tools out there to do that we are not lacking in that. I mean, people can Google it and go get. So that's the number one thing, because for example, there's still a pervasive myth on the street that if I sign the birth certificate, I have rights to my child. You know, that is never, ever been true, but it is still a dominant myth. So educating fathers is really important in order to make change on that end.
Calvin, I'm going to try to hit you with a rapid fire. So first of all, you told us you had them disaggregate the genders. What did you learn? I mean, it's like, hey, what did you learn from that?
Well, that was done a few months. I've yet to pull I need to let some time pass.
Okay.
Get some data.
Okay.
Yep.
Next question. Can you give us a sense of sort of structurally understanding the absence of fathers in a child's life? What percentage of that is because of incarceration? What are the breakdowns there?
Yeah. So in the research, the number one factor is mom's desire for the father to have a relationship with the child. That's just what it is. I mean, if mom doesn't want dad to have a relationship with the child, it's going to be very difficult for dad to have a relationship and a connection to the child. And obviously that happens, that dynamic comes into play in not married parents who are having children, because when parents aren't married and they have a child in the state of Ohio, mom has legal and physical custody of that child at birth. So a not married father in Ohio has to take the step to achieve his rights as a father by going to court and so on. So that's the first step.
So let me tiptoe on that one just a little bit. And you notice I'm saying tiptoe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I could get canceled quickly here. But let me ask you this, Calvin. So Black women would certainly, as a group, probably take issue with any assertion that they don't want the kid's father involved in that kid's life. They would take issue with that. But what are you seeing in terms of the complexities of that relationship, that net, the mother sometimes not being a good facilitator of fathers being a part of their children's lives?
Yeah, this is not a mom's all thing being equal situation. We're talking about moms in very specific situations, right? Typically low income, excuse me. Low income, impoverished, and other indicators around dysfunction. Could be education, could be mental health, it could be a lot of factors. So we're not talking about just moms across the board, all things are equal. right? We're talking about these moms that are in the care of the community, essentially, right? That need our help, right? So in those situations, again, the stress, the co-parenting relationship, how the child was conceived, how the child was born, all those things come into play into terms of how that relationship is going to go. Even in the best situation, two parents, married, home, jobs, insurance, vacations, all that stuff. You add a baby, and research is clear. Life satisfaction and couple relationship satisfaction goes down for a while.
Yeah.
So imagine the same thing is happening for the under-resourced parents who are having a baby, right? The well-resourced parents may well have their own mental or emotional health issues, right? They may be showing up and impacting the family life. They may not, right? But the under-resourced individuals could have mental or emotional health issues, and those are usually exacerbated by their environment and their experience, or vice versa. So we're not talking about moms in writ large. We're talking about, moms who are in difficult situations, or situations that become difficult for a variety of reasons, right? And one of the reactions and responses, when the couple relationship is challenged, dysfunctional, or just broke, is to react, right? To protect the child, to try to, and it's a mothering instinct that just doesn't work out well for the child when you seek to remove a father from the child's life because of your own distress, disappointment, discouragement, resentment, anger, and those type of things.
I've had the opportunity, Calvin, to talk to a number of organizations that more or less cater toward supporting either teenage parents, mostly teenage girls, supporting single parents, mostly single women who are parents, etc. And so there's a number of organizations that really wrap our arms around supporting the female, rightfully so, from my opinion. My question is that when we look at the psychological impact that a family has with not having their father around, right? Going back several generations, this could be multi-generational, right? What is the impact whereby the new parent, mother and father, however they conceive the child, as you mentioned, there's some trauma. So maybe that man did not have a father in their life per se. That woman did not have a father in their life. And then we go up another level in the tree. That woman's mother, grandmother, didn't have a father, etc. So now you have a trend of, and what I've seen, we don't really value men as fathers. We value them as the process of procreation and sometimes some financial resources. So we literally might see that man, that i.e. father, as the financial support of the child, no more, no less. How does that impact our current state today when we have generations of that mindset?
Yeah, Tommy, I think fathers have become flattened out, right, in the mind of the society and the community. So we're not three-dimensional, we're not fully human, we're just kind of flattened out, right? Into, like you said, into those two simple roles. So that's a real challenge. And I think the other thing is that, and this is probably going to sound radical in a number of ways, but I think that we can educate, whatever the age, appropriate age to begin this is to educate boys and girls about sexual health, about their biology. So each other learns about the biology, and then educate girls on fatherhood.
Mm-hmm.
Because Tommy, what you spoke of going back generation to generation to generation is this flattened out image or idea of fathers and fatherhood, and the fact that people aren't giving them their full value and worth, right? So
Right.
so this carries on, and women have an idea, an understanding, a paradigm, a framework of what fathers and fatherhood is. And I'm here to tell you, not all women, certainly, but for a lot of women, it's unrealistic.
Sure.
And it's not rooted in what's actually happening with men. So, and if women listening, consider this. So the man that is the father of your child, at the time you say, I'm pregnant, right? There are psychological, neurological, and biological changes that start to occur.
Yeah.
So there's a process for that man to move into fatherhood. And it is not simple. It is not easy. It may look simple and easy because he's just sitting over there watching the game. But I can tell you that there is a sea change occurring inside of him in all those different areas.
Yes, sir.
The number one thing that occurs inside men when they know they're becoming fathers is, can I do this? Am I ready for this? Was I prepared? In other words, there's a lot of anxiety and fear and doubt.
Yes, sir.
I don't care what situation you're in. You're living in a mansion. You're still going to go through that, right? So, and I'm going to stop there because I could go through the whole cycle. But the point is that men as human beings moving into fatherhood go through quite a bit that's not recognized, considered, or cared about.
I'll jump in just real quick, Eric. This is so refreshing to me, Calvin. Yeah. And I invite our community again to circle back to think about this. It's refreshing to me because as a social scientist, right? Our people watch all the time. I work in an environment that there are people who have children all the time, downtown, urban communities, rural Appalachian communities, children all around. You see mothers, you see fathers, sometimes you see grandparents, etc. But more personally, I have a son, my wife's sons, my stepsons, they have sons. So as you just mentioned, I remember for me, the anxiety, being well-resourced, having a home, a nice home and transportation, a nice job, the benefits, health benefits, all that could just envelope over the family. So the addition of the child would just fold under the protections of what I helped create, right? But I still had anxiety. I was still looking back at my rearing with my mother and father to say, hey, they gave me a lot of tools, but that was back in those days. Do I have the tools today to deal with what my child will have to deal with today? In the same token, we have grandchildren. Our sons have children. And I saw them go through anxiety, right? And that's a different fold. So if you're a parent, okay, you have your own, but then to see your child suffer through the tension and anxiety, I had the propensity to say, hey, here's what you do, right? Yeah, that's what I did some 20 years ago. I don't really know what's happening today. Really, just like dating. I do not know how young people date today. Right. I'm always like, thank God I'm married, right? Or thank God I'm just a one-woman man. Let alone bringing in one, or good grief, I'm pregnant. Oh, this is the fourth child, right? Maybe by one or two, maybe three different women, maybe four, right? So my anxiety is off the charts. I have no idea of how I'm going to realize my ambition to be a father to all and having to navigate the adult relationships with their mothers.
Wow.
Right. Let me Let me jump in here, Calvin, because I'm actually listening to you all. I've become even a little emotional on the inside. And in this respect, uh, Tommy and I are so grateful to be fathers, and all the love that I have of being a father uh, is now leading me to the power and the gifting of you, Calvin Williams. And so so first of all, I'm going to say we got to have you back. We got to have you back. And this is what I'd like to do in that show that we have you back. There's a lot that I could talk about. There's a lot that goes through my mind, like there's just all the structural reasons, like why mothers couldn't get public assistance if a father was in it. So all of those kind of technical things are in my mind, but there's something much bigger than that, and that is we are both consultants. You are a consultant, but you are a father whisperer, like the dog whisperer that knows that well. And so I see you as being able to unlock so many of these challenges that exist. And the show that I'd like us to bring you back on for is mothers giving you their situations and you being able to give them some advice. Fathers who can't get access to their children but want to be there. I want you to give them advice because I see you as such a linchpin. And sometimes, Calvin, we spend so much time and energy talking about the structural challenges out there and the racism and all that, that we miss the counsel and the help that we can bring that can heal the broken spaces that we have here. So here's the question I have for you right now. I'd like you now to set up that call. What is it? Who is it that you would want to speak to? And what are just a couple of things that you'd want to share with them to bring them to that conversation?
Yeah, I think the number one thing is the couple relationship, right? And so fatherhood, period, and good fathering does not exist in a vacuum. It has to be done in context with the mom. And listen, here I said context with the mom. It doesn't even have to be some outstanding partnership. This has to be done in the context with the mom. So she's in there in the environment, having some type of positive influence on the father-child relationship, right? So I think the couple relationship, particularly those who were not married when they had children, that couple relationship is the thing, because that sets up everything else, right? The wounds that come out of that relationship, and particularly how the relationship ended. One thing in my co-parent coaching practice, I go through what I call a wound worksheet, where it's a process I take parents through to help them name the different wounds that came out of the relationship, how those wounds are playing out psychologically, emotionally now, and what those wounds impact on the children is. So that's why I'm spending a lot of time on this, saying the relationship, because it's really important. The second thing I would say is really understanding expectations for you all's situation, right? People have unrealistic expectations for mothering and fathering just off the board, off the top, right? But in couple situations, it can get even deeper with how unreal your expectations of that other parent is, perhaps, especially because of whatever else is happening in the situation, right? Whatever is in the environment. So there are other things that are impacting that relationship that need to be paid attention to. So off the top, I would say those two things. And maybe the last thing would be back to what I said before, making sure people have the good and right information, not the myths and the hearsay based on emotions that have been passed down over time. So,
yeah, I think that's important. And I look forward to bringing you back, Calvin, and really inviting our community, again, from across the nation to dial in, to show up on screen, to share their real life situations and scenarios, and then to have you with your expertise, with your I'm going to say it with your calm demeanor. I think that's important because many of us get emotionally hijacked when we are confronted with the realities of our life, right? In other words, this is not the way I thought it would happen. And so I need to blame the other party or blame other people. Your demeanor, style, expertise, and skill is both, I think, logically sensible, emotionally sensible, and physically sensible, right? So logically, what makes sense? Let me unpack the wounds, the hurts. Let me maybe unpack the talents or tools that were provided to me by certain people. And so then I move into the emotional. Emotional is basically responding to those events of the moment, right? That all things pass, but if we don't care for the moment appropriately, we will revisit it later. So when we have a child and we're not married, or however we have that child, and there's a very high tense, maybe angry confrontation, I carry that down the road. So not only the child was born on this day, but 18 years, 20 years, 25 years later, I'm going to remember that. And I'm going to use that pawn against that other person. I believe that we're not free when we do that. I think we are flat, that people are looking at fatherhoods in a flat way, like you said, because of some past stuff that we collectively haven't gotten through. Physically, now what do I do? What's the action? In closing of my comments, in my true and lived experience, that with my son and my ex-wife, right, that the trajectory that I had for my family was abruptly disrupted. I had pipe dreams, married, family, car, job, right? Get the boys, start the savings for college. If we have multiple children, start the savings for college, right? Taking trips, right? Everything was happy. I was like, hey. And then I don't want you to be around us. Who is us? Me and my son. No, our son. The language changed. I stayed with our. And I was confronted with, no, you're not part of our. We're going to systemically erase you from the organization of family. It was my sisters and my mother that reminded me, because my father passed away the year that my son was born. And I had wished I could go to my pops. Help me, pops.
Right.
It was my sisters, Anita, Diane, and my mother, Carol, that told me constantly, love is going to prevail. Your son will never forget how you love him. So when you do have him, love him. Don't overlove him, i.e. spoil, right? Teach them in the way of a man, of a father. And I realized that I was able to take the constant legal, emotional, and verbal abuse that I did for 18 years, even to this day. I'm able to take it like, first, God has me, and God has my boy. Second, oh, I am a father. You're not going to define what that is for me. Right. I am. My father was a man's man. I'm a man's man. He was a father. I'm a father, with all of our imperfections. And I said, when I'm not around my son, he's going to have my voice in his energy.
That's right.
And that's how I raised him with, you don't need to know all my woes and adult problems. Right? That's not even your business to know that. But it is your business to know I'm here. I'm here. So I wanted to share that. We've got to have you back in our community to chime in.
Right. We're going to go a little bit over time because I'm believing that what Tommy just said embodies a lot, Calvin, of what you've been saying. I think what I'm heard from Tommy here is that spirit of a father that is compelled, that has a strong, super strong desire to be present in the life of their children. But I want to hit, there's a couple rapid fires here with you. First of all, how do people contact you? How do people get in touch with you that want to take advantage of your wisdom and your consultancy?
Sure. Thank you. Yep. You can reach me at lucianfamilies.com, LUCIAN families.com. There are multiple ways to contact me and get things going off the website. And you can certainly reach me at 513-257-4128. That is my direct line. I'd be happy to take the call.
Say it again.
513-257-4128.
Okay. So let me rapid fire just a couple for you because it's still going to be a while before we can get you back. The mother that says, I don't want the father involved in the child's life because of the influences of the father. He's still, I think, involved with drugs. The places that he takes my son, I'm not always happy with. What's your reaction to that?
I would say absolutely pay attention to the safety and well-being of your child, right? So that's number one. But number two is it's likely that the child still benefits from his father, even though the father is living that type of lifestyle. So if the father does not have the child in the moments that he has the child, stealing and selling drugs and boosting and robbing and killing, then the child's going to benefit from being with the father. I'm making light of it, but it's the issue is the child doesn't see it like the mom sees it. The child's needs are different from the mom's needs when it comes to the father. So so again, after safety, you want to start considering the child's view, the child's needs. Father and child need each other to make things well with them. So when you subtract father and child, things get distorted inside father and child, and they are not well. I don't care. He's doing great. He ain't got his father. He's doing great in school. He's an athlete. He's doing this. He's flying to the moon, all that. Still got some things going on there. So
let me throw another one at you. What about the father that struggles because of the man that his ex has chosen? And so he has a problem with that man believing that he's his son's father. And so there's a little bit of conflict there around somebody else trying to speak on my son. What is your counsel to that father?
Well, I mean, that's a really broad question. I mean, in that situation, what part of that situation is he struggling with would be, that I would need to know that. But in a broad sense, again, it starts with mom, right? Mom has to make the stand that this guy is the child's father. He's going to be in his life, and we need to work that out. So it starts there. I'm not saying it's all on mom, but it starts there. The father who's the biological father who's outside the home, he's going to have to come to terms with the situation, right? You can't just fight against reality and think you're going to win. Come to terms with the situation, make an effort to communicate with the guy. And then lastly, the times that you get with your son, do your thing. You know what I'm saying? And lastly, back to Tommy's point, a lot of people don't know this from a psycho-emotional, neurological, neurobiological perspective. Once a father and child connect, right before birth, like in the womb and at birth, that connection is there.
Yeah.
There's no breaking it. You just break the people by breaking them apart, but you don't break the connection.
Come on, Calvin. Come on.
I love that. Another one. Let me just throw one other at you. I haven't been there for most of my child's growing up years. I now want a connection, but there's some rejection there from the child. The mother saying you weren't there. What's your encouragement to the father around trying to continue to try to make that reconnection happen?
It goes back to the point I just made, that the connection is there. He's got to believe that his child really wants his father, but below the disappointment, the anger, and the hurt is a desire at a minimum to know why. And then secondly, a desire at a minimum to know something about this man. So those things are always be true, Dad. So you gotta, even if you just gotta keep tapping on it a little bit at a time, just keep that tap steady, man. Your presence, your effort, and he'll come around, because remember, the child wants you. The child wants to be with you in some way, right? So you got to keep. It's hard because what you're seeing and feeling is the opposite. But you got to hang in there and believe that.
One last one. I know the answer to this, but what would you say to the mother that has raised the child the whole way, and now all of a sudden the father wants to come in, and there's a little bit of envy now and a lack of desire for you to come in and get part of this love that I've cultivated? What's your counsel to her? I think you've already given it, but these are just scenarios that I see happen. Yeah.
I mean, it's a tough one for mom, and I get it, but again, we have to think about it from the child's perspective, right? And that's a process for mom to go through. It's not so you can just wake up and go, oh, I see it from my kid's perspective, right? But we got to at least have some awareness that it is a process that I have to go through, because what's best for my child. If my child comes to me and says unequivocally, I am not interested in that man being a part of my life, that's different. Yeah. But if it's anything else, yes, mom, I know it's difficult. Be aware that you're going to have to move through a process to be able to get yourself comfortable with what's coming up. It's almost that same thing, like you can fight against reality, and and yeah, the only thing that gets broke is the people in the situation.
Yep. So. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Let me throw one other then, Tommy. This is not a scenario. This is an overarching comment about your work. Have you even begun to calculate the value of your work in economic terms to our society? Because as I listen to you, I believe that there's a strong business case for why you should never have an empty moment as a consultant. Because of what you do, its potential to bring back families and to add health to people's lives. I mean, there's a strong business case for why corporations, government bodies ought to be investing in what you're doing. Have you done any economic calculations around the business case for when you reattach a child to a father?
That's a beautiful question, and I have not. I have thought like you're saying, because if you're a business and you have an employee who's a non-custodial father, and this employee has a $600 a month child support order, he's got false allegations made against him, so now he's in a children's services case. He has a parenting time order to see his kid, but the mom keeps violating the order and not letting him see his kid. So all of this is going on in that little cubicle down there. How much better would his productivity and his work life be if some of that was handled?
Right. So I see an opportunity with all of us consultants to add another feature to what we do with corporations, another service, if you will, that would include you. Man, I'm so grateful that we happened upon this moment to reconnect. We are going to have you back and do the show that we talked about. I love you, man. Here's what I love about you, Calvin, is I love how honorable you are and how humble you are about simply caring about children and families. And because of what that means to me, I feel like your success is my responsibility as well. More than anything, man, I feel like your success is a part of my responsibility and Tommy's responsibility, man, because people have gotten this wrong and we've gotten too comfortable with the stereotypes. And there are families out there that need to find their way back together. They don't know how to do it, but you do. And you do it in a sweet way where you're not taking sides, where you simply care about reconnecting people in ways that make them healthier and improve the quality of their lives, but also improves the quality of our society.
Thank you, Eric. Deeply. Thank you.
Absolutely. Tom?
Yeah, absolutely. As we close out the show again, Calvin, thank you for what you do. I would like to extend myself to you. You have the research, you have the expertise. If I can add myself, what you were saying was my story for the last 18 years, flat out. It's very personal.
I heard it.
Right? Everything that you said, every single thing. So I was listening and I heard everything that you said. This was not in theory. This is not in some open scenario. No, it's like, yeah, what you're talking about, having to be systemically trying to separate from fatherhood. That's me. That's me. So with that being said, we'd like to thank our audience for joining us this morning. We had the blessed opportunity to meet with the president of Lucian Families, Mr. Calvin Williams. Go back, take a listen, take a watch of the show, get Mr. Williams' information and follow up. This is not just a Southwest Ohio deal.
No.
It's not just a Midwest region deal or a national deal. This is a global opportunity. Let fathers be fathers and families be families.
Love that. I'll say my last word, Calvin. You'll say your closing word. I'd say to any consultants out there, I'd like you to get a flyer from Calvin Williams to share with the companies that you're working with, because I think that there are a number of families within corporations that we're serving that could use the benefit of this service. I want that within my companies, Calvin. I'd like to share some information about, because I think it could increase productivity and the quality of their workforce. Calvin, you've got the final word. Take us out, man.
Well, Eric, I'll say I appreciate your comments towards me. It's very validating, and you put into words what I don't think about. But it feels like me, you, Tommy, and those of our ilk operate out of love, and that's, again, I don't assess myself, whatever, but if I had to, that's pretty much what I got. I absolutely love the people I think about. I really love the people I get to serve. And so I'm going to bring everything from the deepest part of me to this effort. So thank you for saying that, because that was very validating for me.
Thank you. Tommy, I got to say this because Tommy said this to me. I'm just going to remind you. Tommy said to me while I was telling him that we need to start trying to plan things, and Tommy said, no, Eric, I think we got to stick with what's worked for us, because we believe that God never makes mistakes, and that my daughter's illness opened up an opportunity for us to have you. And you had just texted me, but I think this is a God-ordained conversation. And I'm so grateful, Tommy, that we were able to be a part of this.
Wow.
So to our community, we'll say to you, thank you for joining us today. And we'll look forward to you joining us again next week for another powerful diversity conversations. Take care now.
Thank you, guys.